All righty. Well, welcome to the Coaching Corner. Today, we are going to talk about how to properly delegate, better yet, delegate to accelerate. These are systems to help build team ownership and, most importantly, win back your time. Because that's the thing, one of the most important and profitable things is not just the P&L, but your time to be able to focus on the big levers and pull the strings in your business that matter most. Let's get right into it. Now, I'm Jason E. Brooks, and I'm thrilled to guide today's session, Delegate to Accelerate. This isn't just about giving tasks away. This is about reclaiming your time, developing your team, and building a business that can grow without you having to touch every part of it. Let's dive in and unlock a new level of leadership. Let's set the stage. Many leaders feel stuck, not because they lack talent, but because they haven't built the systems and trust to let go. Delegation isn't about reducing your workload. It's about expanding your impact. It's about building a team that takes ownership. And today, we're flipping the mindset that says you have to do it all yourself. The real cost of poor delegation. Now, poor delegation doesn't just waste time, it limits growth. When everything runs through you, you become the bottleneck. A lot of us don't want to hear that. But yes, when everything runs through you, you end up becoming the bottleneck because everyone has to ask you what it is that needs to be done next. And when that next thing doesn't go well, they then come back to you and ask you what needs to go now. Your teams stop stretching. You start burning out. And all of that is unsustainable. Research from Harvard Business Review shows that leaders who delegate effectively see a 50% increase in team performance. Let that sink in. 50% more productive. That's the power of doing this right. Now, here's the roadmap that we'll walk through for today. 5 keys. And you know I love my 5 keys. 5 keys, steps that transform delegation from a risk into a replicable growth strategy, something you can replicate. First, define success clearly. Second, assign based on readiness. Third, systemize for consistency. Key number 4, coach the first mile. And then the last key, review, reflect, reassign. All of these aren't just theory. Each step is grounded in real operational leadership. You can't delegate what you can't define. Most people hand off vague tasks. That leads to misalignment, frustration, and rework. Buying real estate twice. Nobody wants to buy the same plot of real estate twice. Instead, delegate outcomes. Now, I'm not saying that you're not delegating tasks. You are. But when you're thinking through these tasks, you're actually delegating outcomes. And when you're more clear on the outcome, everyone else is more clear on what they need to do. Paint a clear picture of what success looks like, when it needs to be done, and what guardrails exist to help them get through that last mile. I myself, I use a delegation form. This delegation form on the right-hand side of the screen, this has helped so many leaders, not just restaurant leaders, leaders in general, understand how they can delegate better, what items they can delegate, and who they can delegate to. A lot of which we're talking through in this webinar. If you want a copy of this delegation form, DM me in the Cater Linked community and I'll share this with you. I will send it right to your inbox because clarity isn't micromanagement. The more clear we can be, the better our leadership is. Now, whenever we assign task, we should be assigning based on readiness because not everyone's ready for everything. And just because it's something that you don't like doing doesn't mean that it's something that someone else is ready to start doing. You have to match people to responsibilities based on their skills, confidence, and their capacity. Think about who on your team is ready to stretch and who needs more reps before taking on mission critical tasks. Because delegation is a development strategy. It's about meeting people where they are and then helping them rise. Again, not just passing off something you don't like doing or you feel like someone else should be, but properly matching that role with the person and their skill set. Now, I love systems. I love systems for everything. Even great people can struggle without structure, which is why we have systems. If your expectations and tools are all in your head, and there's a lot of you hearing this right now, that your expectations and your tools are all in your head, you're setting your team up to fail. This is where micro standard operating procedures and checklists come in. These aren't bureaucratic tools. They're consistency builders. Not only do they help build consistency, they help build confidence in the people in your team actually doing it. Because delegation without structure is like passing the baton without showing the track first. Let's make this winnable. Now let's talk about the first 24 hours. Coaching the first mile. The first 24 hours after you delegate something, this is the most critical point right there. This is when confusion, uncertainty, and anxiety set in. You don't have to hover, but you do need to check in. A few things that you can do is ask, what's your plan? Have them do a dry run, and you're doing that dry run with them. During that dry run, let them fail safely and early. Your job is to coach them just enough to build confidence, then get out their way. Even whenever we go back to this delegation tool, and I want to break this tool down a little bit more. When it comes down to delegating tasks, one of the first things that this tool does is that it's asking you to write down every single task you have for the day or for the week or for the month. As a catering director, catering manager, catering coordinator, Whatever your title, writing down all your daily, weekly, and monthly tasks helps you to understand what it is that you're actually going through. The next thing that it's going to have you do is to fill out the priority level. You can see on this portion right here. That priority level has three priorities. You may not be able to see this on your screen because it is kind of small. But once you get this form, you will see it. A first priority task is something that must be done above all other tasks and has a hard deadline. Must be done above all other tasks and has a hard deadline. You're putting a number one by those tasks. A number two, it's important with a deadline, but it's not urgent. And then level three priority, it's important, there's no deadline, and there's no immediate effect to the business if not completed, but it's still important. All three of these priority levels are all important. They all have to be done. But one has a hard deadline, one has a deadline, but it's not urgent. And one is important, there's no deadline, and there's no negative effect to the business if it doesn't get done. This gives you a understanding of when you're passing off tasks, how much of a priority that these things are, and to keep a watchful eye on. The next thing it asks is the admin level. The admin level is where we as leaders get the most tripped up on. A admin level one means only you can do it. Now, let's truly define that. Only you can do it. When I say only you can do it, it's because of your access, because of a password, because of a username and password or a code that you can't give out. You're the only one that can do that. A admin level one isn't that you're the only one that does do it or that likes to do it. It's because of your access. You are the only one that can do it. A admin level two, any type of catering personnel, catering manager, any kind of catering manager can actually do this task. A admin level three, any key employee can do this task. So now you can really figure out, not just because you are the only one that does do it, but you can actually list out, is it because of your access? Is it that any catering manager level can do it because of their access, or any key employee that's in the building if they can do it? Now you've written out all your tasks, all of the priority levels, and all of the admin levels next to that task. On the next column, it also goes through how much time it takes to do that task. Because if you're passing something off to someone else, you want to know how much time is it taking off of their plate. And the next column, the date. The days. The days is very important because it may be something you only do on Tuesdays, or that you only do on Fridays, or on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So listing when that task is done is very important, especially for handing that off. Up next, once you start to choose people on your team to do that task, you're then going to write a name by that task of which task you're going to end up delegating. The last two columns is when training starts. I always suggest that it's 2 weeks in advance of when training starts to give you time to verbally tell whomever you're going to train this task to, of be prepared. I'm going to be passing off X to you, not passing off. I'm going to start training X to you on this date. And then the final column is the handoff or handover date. So if it's training for 2 weeks, you have the first date of when training starts, and then 2 weeks later of when it's theirs. That doesn't mean that you've washed your hands. That just means that everyone is clear on when the training starts and when it's their task, and then you're still following up. I wanted to go back to this slide to really break this delegation form down so you can see how it can be used for you to win back your time. Let's move back forward. We were talking through standard operating procedures and using a system for it. So people do struggle without structure, and this is just us making that winnable. We also went through coaching through the first mile and that first 24 hours. So that first mile of doing that dry run and letting them fail safely and early once you start passing that task off is critical. Because that first speed bump is what makes everyone the most anxious. It's what made you the most anxious when you first got into your role. But as soon as you got through those speed bumps, guess what? You pushed on the gas pedal a little bit more because you gained that confidence. And that's why coaching that first mile really does matter. Up next, after the task is complete, pause and reflect, and you debrief together, and you ask, what worked? What didn't? What can be improved? And this isn't about judgment. It's about growth. When you treat delegation as a learning loop, your team gets stronger and you build a culture of ownership. Let's talk about a few scenarios, short scenarios. But let's ground this into the real world. Imagine you're offsite the day a $2,500 catering order is scheduled. Who owns it? Think about that. You're offsite the day a $2,500 catering order is scheduled. Who owns it? If you don't have a plan now, that's something that you need to think about, or else you will always own everything, even when you're not in the building, in a bad way, not in a good way. Or a different scenario. Your team forgets utensils again. Is that a personal issue or a system breakdown? These scenarios happen every single week. But the thing that we have to do is we have to use them as learning moments, not lectures. Ask, how could this have been delegated more clearly? On now, it's time for Q&A. Let me stop sharing my screen for a quick second here. All righty, so quick Q&A, because now it's your turn. You know, what's one thing that you're holding onto that someone else could own? What's the one thing that you're holding on to that someone else actually could own? Let's talk about it. Is it a clarity issue? Is it a trust gap? Is it a missing system? I want to help coach you through it. You know, so we have a few questions that are on screen. How often do you reflect on who owns what in your catering process and make adjustments? Great question. It's a great question because there is a systematic approach to it. And what that system is quarterly. I find that 3 months is the perfect window for having someone own something fully. It gives you time before the quarter starts. First, let me back up. Because of other systems that I always have going on, I always do a quarterly employee business review. Every quarter, there is a mini review of everyone that is on my team. Why? Because end of year, end of year development plans suck. They do. Have you ever got that feeling when you were going to do an end of year review with an employee and you felt like you were going to throw up? It happens. You're like, oh my gosh, this is going to go horrible. It's going to go terrible. Why? Because you thought that they sucked for 11 months. And now comes month 12, and you have to tell them the whole time you barely mentioned it. You danced around the topic that they were doing bad. So that's why I always make it a point to do quarterly mini reviews with everyone. First, 90 days is a great window of goal setting and goal getting, because a 12-month plan for someone isn't real. Things hit the fan and it's out the window 3 weeks in. 90 days gives you a much better window. Plus, some bonus programs are based on quarters, some on months, some for the year. But that quarterly window helps you align any kind of financial tokens, as well as a mini business review, as well as delegating tasks to get them closer to becoming great. So I always say every 90 days. Now, when the end of that 90 days comes, it's either A, they stay on for the next quarter doing that same task, or B, if they're really biting at the wood chip to move on to something else, and someone else really wants to do what they're doing, you're now training them to be a trainer. Use the person that's currently doing that task to help train the person that is going to be doing that task. It's still your responsibility to make sure that the right training, the right systems, the right approach, the right information gets passed on. But now you're training the trainer, and they're showing that next person coming in how to do that role well. But for me, that's how I see through that, and how often that I reflect that. All right. Do you observe or shadow the first few times a task is delegated? How do you give feedback? No, I just let them do it. I don't even check on them. Yes, of course. Of course, you shadow them the first few times that a task is delegated. And the shadowing is like a four-corner review. I think a lot of teams, I might butcher this, but a four-corner review is whenever you go over the information, and it's all teaching. The second corner is whenever you are doing the role, like you are in the actual position doing that thing, whether it's at the desk or in the field, and you're doing it and you're then teaching them. The third corner is whenever they are actually then doing the job while you're watching them. Then the very fourth corner is when you validate and you ask questions to make sure that they understand key points and key takeaways. That is one part of shadowing. Just because you did that for one shift doesn't mean that they have it. There should be scheduled periodic shadowing that follows through with that as well, at least for the next 2 to 4 more reps. And then giving feedback should be in the moment. But when you give feedback, you still should allow, if we go back to, I think, slide 4 or 5, letting them fail early and letting them fail safely. So if you see something that's not life-threatening, that's not going to have them chop a finger off or burn themselves on sternos or something like that, let them fail first. Because once they understand what it feels like to do that thing incorrectly, as long as it doesn't wipe out your catering system, it's fine. Let them understand that. But there's in the moment feedback, and then there's scheduled feedback as well. In the moment, it's something that could damage the brand, the client, or themselves. Give in the moment feedback right then. Scheduled feedback is letting them go through all of the emotion, let them understand what's going on. And then at the end, find out what are the 3 to 5 most important things you learned. And you're doing that at the end of every single one of these training sessions that you're doing when passing this off. You're pulling them out of the actual role, sitting down and giving that feedback so they can properly reflect. And also give some questions to some things that you may not know that they have questions to. Okay, how do you make sure your team feels confident and accountable right from the start? Ask them, communicate, communicate, and communicate again. The 3 C's. We may think that someone standing there with their chest out and shoulders back and shoulders back means that they are absolutely confident in what they're doing. That can absolutely be a shroud, and they can be scared out of their boots. Asking questions is the best way to make sure that they feel confident and accountable right from the start. Let's think about the definition of accountable. Whenever most people think about the word accountable, their mind goes negative. They're like, that is a bad thing, because I usually hear that word is, see, they've been messing up this whole time, and now I got to hold them accountable. That's negative. That's the worst way to use that term. Accountable is defining what success looks like in that role, in that task, in that duty. That's it. You are simply defining what success looks like. And that's holding them accountable every day, whether it is success for the next 4 hours, success for this event, success for their role on a Friday. When you hold them accountable, there is no questions. You are constantly letting them know what success looks like. How do you balance flexibility with standardization in your catering workflow? I believe that that's a great question, because we're all human beings. Steps of service can kill human connection. I say that all the time with servers, with bartenders. Steps of service can kill human connection, because our goal in what we do is to read things and to get things before it's needed. And every situation is not textbook. There does have to be a balance within that flexibility of what the standards are according to your SOPs for your catering events. So, can that be answered within this context? No, but just know that the SOPs are a guide, but us teaching our people to be empowered to read the situation, coaching them of how to be nimble and how to make decisions is an ongoing thing. How do you ensure that the person doing the task doesn't feel smothered and still feels empowered to actually make decisions on their own, instead of just imitating you and your processes, but not making it better? Great question. Almost every workshop that I hold, and I hold a lot of workshops, almost every workshop that I hold, leaders say, oh man, I swear, if I give my team one more thing, they're going to break. They're going to bust. They're going to bust out the seams. And it's crazy that whenever we end up teaching them and actually empowering them the right way, when we give them a heads up, this is coming down the road in 2 weeks, and this is the reason why. That last part right there, giving them the why up front and how their role affects that, helps to lay that groundwork. No one that works for us wants to work for us because they want to be lazy. Is it that they can be used to being lazy because that's been the standard? Yes. But more people quit roles and jobs because there is no structure, because they don't know anything that's going on, because there's no empowerment than those leaving because they do. People want structure. Do any kind of test, read any kind of book. People want structure. The ones that don't want to feel empowered, that actually don't want to make decisions, are the ones that are going to leave you regardless. Everyone wants to be a part of something to be better, whether they are going to stay with you and your restaurant and your catering service from now till the end of times, or they're leaving a year later to go run a daycare or launch rockets into space. Either which way, every tool we can teach them to be empowered and to be leaders, to be junior leaders, to have empowerment, to make choices, they understand that helps them on their next step. It will absolutely make them better. Not sure if I answered that full question for you, Chris. If you need to, hit me up in CaterLink. Let's schedule a call. But I always see the benefit in letting go of more. As long as we teach them the right way, they will always love it more, and they will not feel like they're being smothered. How do you assess whether someone is truly ready to take on a delegated catering task? Easy. Ask them. Communication. Ask them. Talk to them. Tell them what your plan is. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one corner them, but you can absolutely let people know what your plan is. Over the next 6 months, we are going to start actually delegating duties to people who actually want to learn how to run a business better. It doesn't have to be about catering or kitchens or bar or food, just how to run a business better. As we're doing this every single quarter, I'm going to be sitting down, looking through supervisor manager task and seeing which ones can be delegated. If there's something that you love doing, because especially when you pair something up to someone that likes doing that, the end result is that much better. But having that kind of communication with your team, it gives wonders to everyone. You will find people walking up to you asking, "Hey, I've always really wanted to do this. Can you teach me?" And then you look through your delegation tool, look at the priority level, look at the admin, and seeing what can be passed off. Maybe not everything that they want to do that they're ready for yet, but never stop, never stop, never stopping. I'm kidding. Never stop someone from wanting to advance in being better. Find some way to give them a tool, as long as you pass it on the right way. We'll do 2 more questions. What systems do you use to ensure delegated tasks don't fall through the cracks? Oh, you're going to love this one, because I sound like a broken record. One-on-ones. Why? Because one-on-ones is you scheduling the time every single week to sit down with the people that report directly to you in order to see what their wins are for the week, what their challenges are, get to learn them, and get to coach them up during that time frame. Because you shouldn't be delegating tasks to someone that does not report directly to you. How can you keep up with what's going on? So the way you keep up with those delegated tasks is through your weekly one-on-ones. The last question: how do you decide what to delegate and what to keep on your plate? That goes back to the delegation tool that I can give you. Whenever you reach out, hit me up on CaterLink. I'll send it right to your inbox, and that's going to help guide you to what tools or what tasks are the best ones to delegate. All right, closing out the questions here. A few more slides. Go back to share my screen. All righty. So let's wrap this baby up. Bring it all together. Delegate outcomes, not just task. It's not just about the thing. It's what is the outcome that comes from that thing? What's the outcome that comes from that task? Whenever you can paint that bigger picture, the task becomes more than just something that you're asking someone to do. They understand how it plays into the puzzle. Match responsibilities to people with intentionality. I swear that is the word of 2025. Intentionality, but match responsibilities to people with intentionality. Use systems to support that success, and then review and reflect to grow your team and culture. Delegation done well isn't just a time saver. It's a growth engine for your entire business. So let's keep this conversation going. You don't have to do this alone. That's why we have the Cater Linked community. Share your wins, post your struggles, ask your questions. If you're ready to go deeper, DM me directly. We can work together, build a team that moves as one. Thanks for being here for today. Let's lead better together. So remember, in the coaching corner, make sure you manage, lead, coach, and repeat. I hope this was helpful on your Wednesday. It's 3:37. I appreciate me stealing 37 minutes of your time. And the way you can win that time back, go delegate something. Knock it out the park. I'll see y'all next month. Later.